I lost friends over this because I'm more of like a small government person.
That's right. The flip side would be, and that is authority. If he's planning on having a protest there to protest the certification of the vote because he thinks the election is stolen, and he wants the National Guard there to protect his protesters who think the election was stolen, that's not a good deployment of the National Guard. That's exactly the type of situation that they were trying to prevent.
One little question to Destiny, and then I did want to wish you all well on your show. I really hope it does well for you. So, Destiny, my question to you is, it seems the theme of this show was like talking about standards of behavior based on the title. You said a lot of things that I sort of defended after the first assassination attempt, where I thought you were kind of going on tilt. Now we have a second assassination attempt. I defended a lot of what I thought were jokes that you were telling. I think you make a point that's pretty salient, that there are people that are on the right that make jokes when there's violence against left. So who are they to speak? The one issue, though, that I have that I would just see if you could have some clarity. We're seeing polling now suggesting up to a quarter of Democrats wish that or think we'd have been better off if that assassination attempt was successful. When Pisco asked you point blank after that first assassination attempt, did you want that bullet to kill Trump? Your answer was basically you paused, and then you said you didn't know what you could say on stream, and then you responded, well, the worst thing that could have happened was someone shooting at him and he lived. So I just want to ask you point blank, I know you don't owe me anything, but seeing as how it was Pisco that asked you originally, did you want Trump to be assassinated? And do you think, seeing as how there's so many Democrats that clearly do want that outcome, that you should be more forceful in condemning that if you actually don't believe that?
I said multiple times that I don't think anybody should advocate for killing politicians or anybody that is publicly protesting in the United States for any political reason. I don't think that's good ever. And I don't think we're at a point where we should be advocating for that ever. But I mean, failed assassination attempts are a boon for the person who is failed to have been assassinated or whatever. That is a political reality. That's true. I think that's a really bad outcome. And whether or not people are doing things that make other people think that they're going to take the country in a direction that would be catastrophic and would result in more harm than any individual being killed or whatever is an opinion that apparently 25% of Democrats have. It's not I don't feel much sympathy on the conservative side right now, given where we're at as a result of everything they've said. So.
But calling for someone's death is one thing. Saying, well, if it happened, I think that would be a good thing is another. So you're ready to say that you would clearly say, no, had Trump been killed, that would have been a bad thing for this country?
I don't know if it would have been a bad thing or not. I think that if you were to poll Republicans on whether or not if they think Kamala or Joe Biden being killed, I don't know where they'd be at, considering how many of them believe in satanic death cults or whatever, or QAnon. But I wouldn't call for anybody to be killed. I think that would be really bad. I think it would set a really bad precedent in the United States.
I think it would be a bad thing and I think that this deserves an answer, because just in terms of where the country is at, if you think that there's like a bunch of a split in the country and a lot of partisan, inner fighting, that kind of thing. And when you're in a situation where you have a lot of crazies, in my opinion, on the MAGA side, I don't think that it does anyone any good to have the democratic process short-circuited either by Trump or by an assassin's bullet. I think that's not good for this country.
Yeah, and Destiny, I think with you, like, I get the whataboutism. I get that there are people on the right that'll be psychotic and deep down would say, yeah, I want our opponents to be killed. It's certainly not me. I've been forceful calling against all political violence. But with you, it's like oftentimes I feel like you say something in the heat of the moment, and then later when you like have a cooler head, you sort of walk back. So like one of the first times I talked to you during the George Floyd riots, you said that rioting was the other side of the coin of voting. And as long as the riots were directed at public officials, you just thought that that was the other side of the coin of voting. And now it seems that maybe that's not something you believe. And I think, I don't care. I'm not blaming anyone.
Wait, when have I said that's not something I don't believe in rioting?
No, I think you seem to have talked back the riots of George Floyd. You've said, to me, you've said, how could you say that I was for them? I had so many people on the left that were furious of me for sticking up for Rittenhouse. So it seems like you've given a mixed message. I'll ask you point blank. Do you think that rioting's the other side of the coin of voting, as if you did the first time you talked to me about this?
I don't know if I said if I've ever believed that rioting is the other side of voting. I know that like activism and protesting, and it can be rioting, can be another side of voting, that like activist things like this. Somebody said, Destiny, you've already debated him on this and you already debunked it. Was that not my original quote? I don't remember what my original quote was.
I could put the...
Sure.
Fine. You didn't debunk it. That was the original quote. You said that. But I'll leave you. Like
he made the same accusation in that original debate, and you looked it up after. Justin, Brandon, can you type in my original quote then? I'm pretty sure what I've said consistently is that if people want to riot, I don't think I've ever supported private businesses being attacked ever. I don't think at any point at the height of my progressivism, liberalism, whatever I don't think I've ever supported private businesses being attacked.
I think that's fair, Justin, but he's not accusing you of that. I don't think.
Well, no. I don't know, but then I think I said if you are going to protest, if you are going to riot, I think you can probably make arguments for rioting or being destructive of public property, because at the very least you're directing the anger and destruction or whatever at the public facilities that you feel have failed you. But I mean, in general, rioting doesn't work for a variety of reasons.
That would be kind of a case-by-case basis where you wouldn't necessarily agree as applied in a given situation if you didn't agree with that it were the right means.
Yeah, well, I
right
disagree for several reasons, but not for the moral reason. I would disagree. One is because I don't think it's generally very effective, number one. Number two, I would probably disagree as applied because I tend to disagree on the issues that people are rioting for. But I find it really hard that, like, I mean, what's Finkelstein's favorite fucking example? Is the Nat Turner slave rebellion or whatever? I'm pretty sure they just went and they killed, like, innocent people there. Like, I don't think they were all slave owners. But it's harder in situations where there are insane injustices to where it's like, okay, well, maybe in some circumstances I can understand it. I've said in the January 6th stuff that if there was really solid evidence, if it was good evidence that,
you
like,
would be in favor of January 6th.
I think it would be incredibly queer as an American citizen to say that you have a principled stance against insurrection or something, given the foundation of our country. Like, I think that you kind of have to have that baked in a little bit, but it's going to come down to what the issues are.
I just want to give some credit to Rob. I think that Rob is generally very, very against political violence, and I think that this disconnect has to do with a little bit of Destiny's, like, kind of being incredibly specific. I think Rob is saying at no point is political violence justified.
Correct.
That it's not exactly true that you would say that. I think that there are situations where you would envision it, but it's not useful to talk about them or to say anything other than political violence is never justified.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. But I think that Destiny's being, like, strictly speaking, precisely correct when he says, for example, and I think that I'm not even sure I disagree with him. Like, if the election were actually stolen, and we actually had, like, very, very, very strong proof of that, that to me, isn't certain things justified, right? Don't you understand in the head of a Jan 6er, right?
No, it wouldn't be justified even in that case. There are certainly times in history, for every one time we could say that political violence was justified, there's 10,000 times that people have made that excuse and it wasn't. I think in today's world, because there are so many other options, that even if the worst things that people thought about the election was being stolen, I don't think that justifies rioting. I think morally it's not justified because it's a better chance or there's avenues for sort of fighting through the area of ideas and knowledge as opposed to physical violence. And also strategically, it doesn't apply.
Wait, so was the Revolutionary War, was that justified?
Yes, but that was literally declaring war to separate ourselves. If the argument's going to be that,
then was the Civil War justified?
Yeah, it was violence, right?
Well, again, I'll repeat this. Like, Pisco already gave the answer to this. Yes, you could point to a few times in history where political violence was justified. The situation back then was vastly different than it is today. So we have so much more battles are fought through information now, not so much through physical violence. And the problem is, if I were to say to you, sure, I guess there's a time where political violence will be justified, every single person with an issue says, yes, and this issue is mine. Systemic racism. See, we can't go through the systems because they're all racist. Therefore, we're justified in violence. All the police are killing unarmed black men so we could light the country on fire.
This is a huge pivot. I'm just curious. I don't know. Would you agree then that the justification for the Second Amendment to fight against the tyranny of the government, that's a wholly unsatisfying answer?
No, because it's to prevent excesses from the government where the government would come at you. Secondly,
but you would agree that every single time where the government come after you should never use violence, right?
No, not necessarily. Like, if you're defending yourself, that's different than proactively going and causing a riot. So, for example,
political violence, then it would be kind of like a civil libertarian self-defense.
Correct. Okay. Right. So correct. So, like, if the government comes into your house to take your children away because you're practicing Judaism, yes, you have a right to use those arms to defend yourself.
Okay, but government wants you to leave your house, so they cut off all the utilities to your block.
Yeah, that's the kind of problem I'm having is, like,
it's more of that would be more of a case for self-defense than something such as, I think the election was stolen. And the problem is, like, and again, Destiny, get to the specifics of this, you may misremember what you said, and I sympathize with the fact that you're probably somewhat hyperbolic just because it gets more clicks, and I think it's somewhat in who you are. I'm sort of the same way, and you're speaking 8 hours a day, damn near every day. So you're going to say stuff that maybe flies off the cuff sometimes that's not the most wise stuff. But when I hear over and over, like the first time I talked to you, I'm saying things like, hey, maybe it's a conspiracy theorist in me, but I think that these Democratic mayors and governors are allowing these riots to occur. You say that's not a conspiracy at all. That's what's happening. And rioting's the other side of the coin of voting.
Activism. And
he did. I have the clips. I mean, he said that stuff. And then later when it's or we could have, there's a litany of examples like this where this stuff was said. And it only matters to me because I think some of your audience, just like some of my audience, just like some of Pisco's audience and others, some of the audience is pretty impressionable. So like I've seen people send clips from your Reddit, Destiny, that's like, well, since the Supreme Court basically made Trump God Emperor, we tried to use the legal avenues. So now maybe it's appropriate to go outside the scope of that. And I just think it's playing with fire. It's cool. You want to make jokes about Corey Competore? I think they fucking suck, but you have the right to do that. I'm not going to clutch my pearls over it. But when you're specifically asked by Pisco, not by Piers Morgan or someone you could give two shits about, but by Pisco, and you're like, but clearly you didn't want the bullet to kill Trump, right? And you're like, well, like I think that sets a very bad precedent, particularly if your first spaces here is going to be about standards for behavior.
Listen. I first of all, I think the space is a little broader, and that has to do with like I agree. There's something about standards of behavior, but I do want to say I agree, Rob, in the sense that I think the correct answer is it would be the worst outcome. But I don't think that we should conclude from his answer, which is a little bit more equivocal, and he was kind of thinking it through out loud in real time and trying to work it out in his head. I don't think that we should conclude from that he wanted violence to happen to Donald Trump, or that he would encourage it. And I do think that, you're going to find some crazy DGGers for sure. But are you going to find Destiny encouraging violence, political violence in his clips? I don't know about that either.
Well, let me be clear. The only reason I would agree to talk to anyone is I think there has to be a precursor agreement that we're not going to call for violence against the other or for their politicians, whatever. So I defended Destiny and think, for me, I have a bias that I stream because I'm entertained by it, and I don't want to talk to people that I think want me to be harmed or want to call for violence. So I gave the benefit of the doubt that that's not what Destiny was doing, and that's why I just asked for him to clear it up, because that was the only comment that I heard in the aftermath of that. Look, I think that I sympathize, as you know, Pisco, of conversations I've had. When Pisco asked me, Rob, will you say if Trump wins, you'll condemn him using FISA warrants illegally to spy on his opponents? And I say, fuck you, Pisco. I'm not going to owe you anything because you didn't say shit to my level that I thought was appropriate when that happened against Trump. So when Destiny says to Piers Morgan, I don't owe you shit, when Piers says, well, you condemn this, I get that. But when you asked him, that's different. And that's the one time that my eyebrows raised, where I was like, I'm still giving Destiny the benefit of the doubt, but I just wanted to hear it from his own mouth. Look, I was heated in that moment. Yeah, okay, maybe I was being a little jokey or whatever, but clearly I wouldn't.
I mean, I'll listen to this again afterwards. I'm just, because I can only read the transcript, because I can't listen when you guys are talking, but I'm just reading the transcript. That's affecting political change like this is fine. Like, that's part of the goal. Like, activism and riots are one side of the coin, and the other side is voting. Like, bringing awareness to issues like this, and attempting people to vote differently is part of the goal, right? So I can listen to this afterwards. It doesn't sound like I'm defending like violent rioting, burning down cities. It sounds like I'm speaking broadly.
Let me be clear. You specifically say you're against the burning down of private property. I've never accused you otherwise.
Wait, what were you just saying that my quote was about then? Because that sounds different.
Your quote about the precinct, about the police.
About the precinct. It's about the public buildings. You said there. You just read in that quote. You said that like activism and rioting's the other side of the coin to voting. And what you made it clear, you're not talking about burning down someone's private building or looting, but you are talking about the public institutions that were being attacked. And you said, yeah, that's sort of the other side of the coin.
Wait, when have I ever said? First of all, that's when you say, yeah, that's the other side of the coin of voting. Like, I'm saying that, like, yes, every time you vote, you should also burn down a police precinct or whatever. That's a bit of a false equivalency. But number two, wait, when have I ever said anything different to this?
But that's your quote. What did you mean by that then? What do you think you meant when you said rioting and activism is the other side of the coin of voting? What do you think you meant when you said that? Well, I'm saying
the coin and the other side is voting, like bringing awareness to issues like this, and attempting people to vote differently is part, and getting people to vote differently is part of the goal. If we're looking at it in a political calculus, I would have to listen to this.
One of like, I think, three ways. The first one is I could say that this is what happens when like voting systems are ineffective. That could be a commentary, like not necessarily a normative thing, but him just explaining what occurs in the absence of like proper, responsiveness to the electorate. He could be saying that it's possible to justify in certain situations, though maybe not necessarily in this one, political violence if there's a certain level of urgency or a certain level of, like he just mentioned, the slave rebellion. Or third, he could be saying, actually, I do agree that they should have burned down, or it was okay or not wrong for them to burn down the police building in Minneapolis. Of those three, Stephen, I guess which one would you most align with, or something else?
You know what? Give me like 2 minutes. I'm just gonna go listen to this.
Yeah.
Hold on.
And let me just say, like, I think this is a bit of a stretch, though, Pisco. Like, for example, let's say you called into my show.
Okay, what did I actually say in this?
I think the riots will help Trump.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out.
I mean, and I might have been like someone that they may have liked. I think this will hurt a candidate like Bernie.
Do you think that we're going to see some sort of response to what's happening? Do you think we're going to see some sort of legislative response?
I think that we'll see some lip service paid. It'll be like, oh, we started a commission that will look at police.
Do you think that this type of stuff is going to help or hurt Trump in his election?
I think the riots will help Trump.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out. Polling everything turns out. Yeah.
I don't know though. And I can tell you right now that factors zero into my calculus. Like, I'm more.
Well, no, I mean that's really important. If stuff like this and Trump's response ends up making him less likely to get elected, I assume most of the people protesting or rioting even would assume that that's like a victory on their part.
I mean, that's outrageous though. If you're rioting for that kind of political reason, that's even worse.
I mean, when top down, when the only responses Trump has given is that when the looting starts, the shooting starts, or like quoting literally like racist.
That's what happens.
He's literally quoting like a racist cop from '68, I think. Like that's not a good look. Like that's not a good way to manage your citizens protesting. Like when you're literally tear gassing people out, so you can do a shitty photo op in some cemetery or church or whatever, the St. John's place or whatever. Like these are really bad looks for how Trump is handling things, and I'm sure a lot of people will be happy with literally anybody else at the helm but him.
I mean, I think that what you're saying gets to the truth of what a lot of people are thinking on the left, which they actually like these riots. And I think that this could be a reason. This is the conspiratorial nature in me. But this could be why people like de Blasio are like, yeah, go ahead, keep rioting. We're just going to give up parts of the city and be unwilling to accept the National Guard.
Well, I don't think that's conspiratorial at all. I think that affecting political change like this is fine. Like that's part of the goal. Like activism and riots are one side of the coin, and the other side is voting. Like bringing awareness to issues like this, and attacking people to vote differently is part of the goal, right?
If we're looking at it in a political calculus, and you're a Democrat and I'm a Republican, I will be happy to have that soundbite that you're admitting that de Blasio is allowing his city to burn because he thinks.
I don't know how much de Blasio is allowing a city to burn. I'm pretty sure riots are being allowed to burn to some extent in every major city because you can't just send in the cops and the National Guards to destroy everybody and get everything. You have to let people like burn themselves out a little, right?
I just think that's outrageous. I think it's outrageous. Would you say the same thing about the Charlottesville protesters? Should they have been allowed to just burn themselves out instead of leading to a confrontation that actually resulted in some scumbag murdering someone?
Of course not. They said my understanding is that this is how every single major riot plays out. That nobody has a big riot and they send in the police and just like crush it immediately. Like I'm pretty sure the Charlottesville protests were allowed to carry out. Like.
So the amount of days that it would go before you'd say, okay, well, maybe it's time.
I don't know, a few days. I mean, it seems like we're hitting the limit now where like people should probably like fuck off. Like it seems like.
Well, I mean, last night was pretty damn bad. That was what, day 5.
Sure. Maybe people feel like they need to keep going until like an actual concrete concession is made. Then I don't know. Maybe that's the goal. Like.
But what's the concession? Like when you start.
The concession might be the firing of certain police chiefs. The concession might be the passage of some legislation that makes a third body arbitration. I think didn't Obama have an initiative that he launched under the DOJ that would have given more third party oversight to cops that Trump disbanded? Maybe something like that coming up again, or maybe a changing in the rules and how police conflict is dealt with when innocent people or when other people get murdered by cops. I don't know. There's a number of concessions that I'm sure people would like to be made.
But look, if we're going to make the political point, well, Trump got rid of this concession. Also, a lot of leaders in the black community were adamant that they wanted prison reform under Obama, who wouldn't give it to them, and Trump did that. So it's
type
not
of prison reform that people wanted. The type of prison reform that is we got rid of nonviolent drug offenders, or got rid of like what do you mean? Like,
yes, that's what Trump's prison reform did. Was it perfect? Did it get rid of all nonviolent? No, but it was a damn step better than what was done under the previous administration. And leaders in the black community agreed. They might say, well, it wasn't just Trump, blah blah blah, but Trump's the one who signed the legislation, and by and large, leaders in the black community enjoyed that. So I mean, I don't understand. Like again, this has to do with this false narrative being pushed, where it's like, oh, we just assume it's about race. Like Trump's a racist Nazi. Trump's out there telling cops to kill people. That's not what's going on. That's the data.
Trump's rhetoric has been absolutely inflammatory during this whole thing.
It's fine. I mean, it's inflammatory in the sense he came out immediately and he said that he thought that was outrageous and that his DOJ would be investigating. And then he said, if you like, we're not going to deal with these rioters. We're not going to let you riot.
Trump is like literally like on the phone telling people that if you. Am I saying this is what I want to happen, or am I describing like the results of politics? I don't know if I have to back up more. Hold on. Now we're like people should probably. Yeah, I'm speaking very descriptively. Conclusions and solutions. We'll go back more, I guess.
I mean, I don't know though. And I can tell you right now that factors zero into my calculus. Like, I'm more.
Well, no, I mean that's really important. If stuff like this and Trump's response ends up making him less likely to get elected, I assume most of the people protesting. Okay, go back. This is or not. If it's possible, it could be.
Okay, how about a large portion?
Too much of it is sure. I agree, of course.
And so, like, why would we like? It just seems. And again, what are we talking about here? Maybe this would be acceptable if we were talking about the actual truth. Was that unarmed blacks were being killed by police in the manner that I'm speaking of. But when we're talking about, well, actually, it's more about economic justice and stuff. And then the inverse argument's true of COVID. Well, no, we had to shut people's jobs down. We had to destroy the economy over a fear.
Okay,
go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I just, I don't know. I think we're kind of looping like on mushrooms.
Yeah, maybe time to end. But just if you don't mind, my name's Rob Noerr. I got a YouTube show, Normal America with Rob Noerr. You guys will probably all hate, but that's okay. Appreciate you all anyways. And regardless if we agree or not, I do really appreciate you having me on to talk. And I think that if we had more conversations like this, maybe it would mean rioting would be less necessary. So.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on if legislation gets passed, right? But
literally live right around the exact center between the spot where Floyd died.
I don't see how this is going to lead to political.
When the spot where precinct, because I have some opinions if you would like.
Or the type of people that these riders would want to be elected.
Well, like, do you think
Sanders might have been like someone that they may have liked? I think this will hurt a candidate like Bernie.
Do you think that we're going to see some sort of response to what's happening? Do you think we're going to see some sort of legislative response?
I think
Do I talk about whether or not this should happen, or?
At the narrative.
Well, so to be clear, those people are just upset because they don't want any violence or destruction of their own like neighborhood stuff. They're not against like rioting against like police officers, or it's not because they think that like police officers are largely innocent when it comes to racial biases, right? They just don't want people destroying their own neighborhoods.
Well, but just real quick, I don't think they want people interacting with per capita per person. I don't think it's necessarily a race thing. I think it's if you're a police officer and you're more likely to be patrolling an area where there's violence, you're more likely to be involved in a violent situation, whether of them supposedly is that they don't want to be doing it. And that's why I'm asking everyone with the platform to call people to do the right thing. These have been really political rallies where people come with Confederate flags and Nazi symbolism and call for violence. This is not appropriate in a global pandemic, but it's certainly not an exercise of democratic principles where we have free speech. This calls for violence, it's racist, misogyny. So people that were protesting her, she said, oh, this is bad, you're more likely to spread the disease. Compare that to the First Amendment right to protest has never been more important. In this moment when it's still bad.
Okay, hold on. So we've moved this goalpost like so hard. So firstly, she disagrees with these protests, but she agrees with the other. That's to bring up riots. City?
So how long do we have to leave these people riot before we? So at the exact same time, and this is why the context is important. At the exact same time, we're saying, well,
No, we've had riots this severe since Rodney King. I mean, like the Detroit riots were fucking massive. Like there were tons of things like burned down in that. I mean, like the thing is that like if you're comparing this riot to like other riots that we've had over the past like 10 or 15 years, I don't think they've been as extreme as this.
Okay, so let's assume that's true. Why won't de Blasio accept the National Guard then? If you're saying that they were overran, there literally wasn't.
Wait, what was the Detroit thing in reference to? Or did I fuck up? That's supposed to be LA for Rodney King, right?
Police to deal with this. Why wouldn't you accept the National Guard deal?
I mean, I don't know. Why did he say? What was the stated reason for it?
I have no idea. I didn't see a direct quote, but he said they asked him today, would you take the National Guard? He said no.
Maybe he doesn't feel that they need it for the riots to eventually die out in their city.
So how long do we have to leave these people riot before we? So at the exact same time, and this is why the context is important. At the exact same time, we're saying, well, we'll just leave the property destruction, the people being hit by cars, the store owners being beat, the people being shot to death. We'll leave all that go. But de Blasio on the same day is like, don't you go out to the park and walk your dog. We'll send the police for that. It's insanity.
Because these are two totally separate things. Sending the National Guard or sending the police to fight rioters is going to massively escalate the conflict. This doesn't seem to be a case where the police can effectively just step in and with force take care of it. Whereas if you've got people violating social distancing or somebody cheating their taxes, this is... Should. What about should? Okay. I'm not even sure what the... Do we even talk about this? Do we even talk about whether I think there should be rioting or should be violence in this debate? Or wait, what is this? Hold on.
We're not going to deal with these rioters. We're not going to let you riot.
Trump is like literally like on the phone. Okay, then we do about. This is about. Okay, well.
Don't like either candidate really. Let's just say hypothetically. And I think one candidate, I'm like, it's bad. He's saying that Haitians are
what are you looking
eating
for?
cats.
He makes it sound like I'm
and on the other hand, I'm like, I think it's bad that they're literally calling Trump a Nazi lover and Hitler. Like, for example, the Fine People hoax, probably one of the most insightful, dangerous hoaxes in the history of this country. What would you really do if you thought the president of the United States literally was saying, I like Nazis?
He was literally equivocating, and you know this to be the truth, that there was no, and you're going to point to like one hearsay person, that there was no confirmation that person is there. The notion that there were fine people on both sides is an incorrect notion, and the fact that he gives a self-serving cleanup statement afterwards is par for the course for Donald Trump. And so it's he did not. Look,
how many speeches did he give after Charlottesville where he referenced it?
Where he referenced fine people?
How many speeches did he give?
I have no idea how many speeches he gave in reference to.
Since you've apparently bought the hoax, he gave 3 speeches. He gave one speech, I believe it was the night of or the night after. And in that speech, he said, much like you hear Democrats say anytime there's an assassination attempt, which seems quite frequent against Republicans at this point, they'll say all rhetoric needs to calm down on both sides. And we love this country and hate doesn't apply. We won't accept
when Dems do it, right? You hate it when Dems do it?
No, not necessarily. I think that what I hate about the Democrats is they consistently blame right-wing rhetoric when a right-winger does something, but when a left-winger does it, they say both sides need to tone down the rhetoric. That's been the standard since the Gifford shooting, and then we saw the Steve Scalise shooting. All of the Democrats during the Gifford shooting said, Bernie Sanders was fundraising off of it. Right-wing rhetoric is making it so it's not even safe to walk down the street as a Democrat. And then when a Bernie supporter shoots Republicans in Steve Scalise, all of a sudden when Nancy Pelosi's asked, do you blame your rhetoric. She goes, how dare you? She yells at the journalist. How dare you imply that? In fact, it was Trump's rhetoric, we were told, or Republican rhetoric that was responsible for the Republican ball field shooting. And the difference is this is coming from people in positions of power. Yes, Trump's in a position of power, but overarchingly, these institutions such as journalists, etc., they repeat this rhetoric, which is fine. I'm not blaming them for stochastic terrorism or anything. But how can they get on their high horse then and blame Trump and couples for his rhetoric?
I said that
so much so we have Lester Holt the day of another Trump assassination attempt, and his monologue that day is...
What is this? Hold on.
We can agree peaceful protests are great. You said the riots were legitimate.
I said that rioting against public institutions is legitimate. If you want to burn down a police precinct, or like a cop car, flip a cop car, whatever, that type of stuff is defensible. But attacking like other businesses and other people is not acceptable.
Okay, but we can see the majority of the buildings being attacked.
What was Rob's original claim that I was even saying here? Because I feel like I asked him, wait, are you saying I supported rioting against like private business? And he said, well, no, you never said that. What was his original claim even that we even disagreed with? Because I feel like my position on this has been pretty consistent throughout all of time and space, no? I don't know if we know that right now. I don't know if we know the majority of rioting has been against businesses or not. It's possible it could be.
Okay, how about a large portion?
Too much of it is, sure. I agree, of course.
And so, but why?
Okay, I do say here that too much rioting has happened against private businesses. Okay. Businesses or not. It's possible it could be.
Okay, how about a large portion?
Too much of it is, sure. I agree, of course.
And so, but why would we, like, it just seems, and again, what are we talking about here? Maybe this would be acceptable if we were talking about the actual truth. Was that black
on crimes would have that are occurring with Haitians. There were public claims of people that were publicly claiming in town council meetings and elsewhere on social media that there were pets that were coming up missing and possibly being eaten by Haitians. What happens is Trump takes something that no one gives a shit about the people of Springfield, Ohio. No one, you didn't, the Democrats didn't, Harris didn't, Biden might, but he's just concerned about eating ice cream. He's at least talking about it. His team's at least talking about it.
Hold on, wait. Why? Just because you care? Wait. Why would we ever think that repeating claims made in a city council town hall thing or whatever? Why is that acceptable?
Why not?
Because you have no evidence. Because you have no evidence of them, right?
Well, no. Like, I think I agree with you. If we're talking about best possible practices, it's difficult to say anything until you have definitive proof.
No. Hold on. You generalize that so much. Also, hold on. Before I go down this road, just real quick, what was your claim that what I had said in this debate or whatever that we had 4 years ago?
I said that you said some of the following things. You said that rioting was the other side of the coin of voting. You admitted at one point. So
at the end of this debate, I'm saying that like if people feel like their voices aren't being heard and they're trying to get legislation passed or whatever, that like activism and rioting might be the other side of that. I don't think in this debate you asked me about riots and what they're going on. You know what's happening right now. Like 3 minutes before that quote, I tell you that there's been way too much right now. That there's been like the riots against private businesses aren't okay. But I'm just describing.
Right. You keep going back. Let me be clear, Destiny, for the millionth time. I have never once, to my knowledge, ever accused you of saying riots against private property was okay. What I was talking about was it seemed that you were delineating, which is good. It is bad to riot against private property, but you seem to be speaking in the real moment, like day 4, whenever we had this discussion of the Floyd riots. You were like, well, sometimes rioting's the other side of the coin of voting. Now that seems like an equivalent, and you're like, clearly I don't mean the private property. Wait.
But when I say it's the other side of voting, this is basically the equivalent of that MLK quote, that rioting is the language of the unheard. That if people feel like, and that's what we're talking about, because at the end of this, right after, I ask you, like, well, do you think legislation is going to get passed? Do you think that people feel like their voices are being heard? Do you think something's going to change or whatever?
Mm-hmm. But so it sounds to me like you're giving some sort of credence to the idea that the riotings will accomplish something good, or that there was justification.
They can accomplish something, yeah, they can. But I mean, we all agree with that, right? Rioting, whether it's good or bad.
All right, fair enough, right? But it seems that you're giving some sort of lip service to a justification of riots, saying, well, maybe it'll get legislation passed.
I explicitly said earlier, though, that the rioting that's happened so far, there's been too much. It's not good. I explicitly said
against
that earlier.
The private, you were talking specifically about the private businesses.
Sure, but I don't know. We don't go over any explicit like attacks against any public infrastructure here to see if I agree or disagree with it.
But in a world where we both understand, like, for example, this is coming right off 2-3 days after the burning down of a police precinct. When we're having this conversation and you are the one who brings the delineation, you're like, well, clearly I'm against rioting of private property. The obvious inference there is you're differentiating private property from public property. And then when you go on to say, well, sometimes it's the voice of the unheard, or it's the other side of the coin to voting. It seems to any objective person that's listening, it seems that Destiny's saying like, well, if you have to riot to get your voice heard, at least make it against public things, and sometimes that could raise awareness.
Rob, this is a 2-hour conversation. If you have to infer that much from one comment, you're probably in the wrong. right?
So
Like this is a
you're-
2-hour conversation. I don't know if I ever justify any individual attack. I think I just say, or I know I do just say, because I just listen to all this stupid shit. At the end, they're like, yeah, activism and rioting are the other side of the coin. And historically in the United States, yeah, there have been activists and there have been riots or whatever. I don't know which ones I would support or which ones I wouldn't. We can go over specific details. We don't go over a specific one in this conversation, but it's a 2-hour conversation. Why would you take where I'm just describing at the end that people riot or whatever because they feel like they're going to have legislative changes or whatever as some kind of justification from me for why riots happen? This is a thing that happens.
Because if you asked me to condemn violence from like Charlottesville, I'd say absolutely I condemn the violence. I wouldn't say, well, any violence against private individuals would be wrong. However, sometimes violence the other side of the coin to voting.
Yeah, but do you
and
ask
it could
me?
raise
Do you
awareness.
ask me?
Get some legislation.
I didn't say I didn't say that in response to do you condemn the firefighter or the whatever police thing from me. I didn't say that in response to that. Do you even ask me in this debate to condemn or to have a stand specifically on the fire or on the police station?
I don't know if I use the words I'm asking you to condemn, but I'm clearly talking about the riots that we see happening at that time, which
Wait.
Yeah, but wait, if you say you clearly see the riots happening at the time, I say in here that, yeah, the way too much has happened. This isn't acceptable. It isn't good. But then we're talking about whether or not, funnily enough, a conversation we just had like an hour earlier, you were asking me like, why are they letting cities burn? And my responses in this debate were, well, I think that cops just can't manage everything immediately. You can't just send in a bunch of cops. Things will escalate. Like that's probably why it's happening. So it's not like I'm championing even...
You also directly said when I said, I think that these governors or mayors are allowing this to occur, you said, absolutely, that's not a conspiracy at all. That's what you say, correct?
Wait, yes, but I say that in that they're allowing it to happen because it's like part of the police tactics.
De-escalation,
yes, because that's what we argue about like immediately after.
I'll go back and look at the quote. I thought I specifically said that
you
they were allowing it to occur.
I don't know how much de Blasio city burning, but I'm pretty sure riots are being okay. You said I will be happy to have that soundbite that you're admitting that de Blasio is allowing his city to burn because he thinks. And then I say afterwards, I don't know how much de Blasio is allowing his city. But I'm pretty sure riots are being allowed to burn to some extent in every major city because you can't just send in the cops and the National Guards to destroy everybody and get everything. You have to let people like burn themselves out. Not a little, right? And then you said, well, I just think that's outrageous. I think it's up. Would you say? And then I'm just reading the transcript, so they're not perfect.
Okay,
yeah.
So, and Rob, this is going to bring it back to the actual conversation. I appreciate that you're trying to like get a statement from Destiny in the past, and I understand people are frustrated because it's kind of turned into a cross-examination of his previous statements. But I would like, if we can, we're about to transition to closing it out. We're closing at 5, but here we have a situation that we were just talking about where there's a tactic that you're saying is deplorable, that is letting these things burn out or taking a kind of not immediately violent approach to some of these protesters. Yeah. Didn't Donald Trump preside over this? Doesn't Donald Trump also face some kind of culpability for the BLM and letting it get out of hand? If you're going to say that it was deplorable to let these cities burn out, that it's a national problem sufficient for you to bring it up, 4 years later all the time, like, isn't it also his responsibility for failing to take federal action against a national problem?
Well, what was going on was, I believe I say in that quote with Destiny, I don't have the transcript in front of me, that I think that the Democrats are allowing this to occur because they see it as politically advantageous. My theory on that is they wanted Trump to be the dictator that they constantly claimed he was. So what would have happened, as you well know, is once he requested to send the National Guard in and all these Democratic places like in Kenosha said, no, we refuse to have it. They wanted him to then have an emergency declaration that would have forced it in beyond them so that they could have said, see, he's a dictator.
Wait, is there a single statement from any lawmaker, anybody, anywhere, any kind of statement that even implies that?
It implies that they were refusing to accept the National Guard.
That implies that they were hoping he would do it so that they could showcase how corrupt he was.
Yep. Well, of course they didn't say that. I'm saying that that's my theory, that what was going on.
You have evidence for that theory?
Yes, I have evidence for that theory because they allowed this violence to occur over and over again when they clearly had the police force. But no, he didn't. Let me finish. Right. They allowed it when they clearly had a domestic police force. Then when Trump suggested using the normal means that you would use, which was requesting that they allow the National Guard to come in, they turned it down. For example, in New York,
why are you?
No, I don't read minds. Though it is funny. This is coming from the group of people that think that Donald Trump engaged in an insurrection, claiming that they know when he was saying, "Let me finish." Knowing when he said, "Be peaceful," that he really meant be violent.
Wait. Why would he refuse the National Guard? Why wouldn't the governors just say, "Fine, bring them in," and then say, "Look at what Trump is doing"?
That's a great question. Why didn't they? Because if they accepted the help, then it would be hard to call him a tyrant. But if he sent them in against their wishes, then they could say he's mobilizing the military against domestic people. These are people protesting against racism. And Donald Trump is a racist and an authoritarian who, against the wishes of local government, is sending in the military. That would have been the argument.
Well, you'll never admit this, but this is an all roads lead to Rome fallacy, because if they would have allowed the federal government, or they would have allowed the National Guard to come in, they would have only needed one bad thing to happen. And if one cop would have killed, one federal officer would have killed one citizen, then the Democrats would say, wow, look, the federal police are so horrible under Donald Trump. And then you would have said, see, that's exactly why they allowed Trump to mobilize the National Guard, because they knew that at least one bad thing would happen. And now they're going to blame Donald Trump for it. Like, no matter what they do, you're going to say there was a massive conspiracy.
That's not true at all. That's not true at all. And in that world, like, it's very difficult to liken one bad person at the National Guard that takes a heinous action when he's been requested in by a Democratic mayor.
Hold on, wait. Just to check, didn't this literally exactly happen? Weren't there cities where there were National Guard people deployed and some people were quote unquote disappearing and people blamed Trump for it? Didn't this actually happen?
Yes, but it didn't stick as much.
You can't say yes, but that means that what you just said was wrong. How can you agree with both those statements?
True. That's not true, right? What happened was there were places that accepted the National Guard, and there were accusations that the Guard behaved improperly. But did it lead to some huge political calculus against Donald Trump, the likes of what it would have been if he would have sent the military?
How do you know that,
though, Rob? Know that?
Obvious, and you can ignore and know.
Oh my God!
Not only that. I can even prove.
I have a quick question to clarify. It's on the subject.
Let Rob say something, and then Josiah ask your question.
15 seconds. 15 seconds.
No, sure.
We actually have people in the military like Miley and others that were talking about optics being a reason not to send the National Guard in January 6th. The idea that they would have been okay with him overriding the wishes of Democratic governors and mayors if he would have sent them in is laughable. You know, they would have made that criticism. You all personally would have made the criticism that meant he was a tyrant.
But you don't actually have. I want to let Josiah ask, but you don't actually have evidence that was their intent, other than the fact that they didn't request National Guard.
No, if you're asking me if I have the power to get illegal FISA warrants to spy on politicians I don't like the Democrats do, no, I don't have that.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so my question, because I could have missed it, but Rob, you were asked if Trump bared responsibility, if he had some sort of culpability, if he should have sent the National Guard in anyway. And I didn't hear a yes or no. He did?
He should have.
He should
sent the National Guard in. Absolutely. He should
have taken what they wanted, even though it was a bait?
Yeah. Yes, that's what he should have did. Sometimes being a good leader means that you have to do what's right, even if you know that it'll be used to politically attack you.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's one of Trump's
favorites. Rob wants it. And you know what? That's
no.
Point of our show.
You could go, but I'll say real quick. I said it. I lost friends over this because I'm more of like a small government person. And I had friends telling me, oh my God, what happened to the Rob that criticized excessive police with us marching in 2004, 2005 against things like the Patriot Act? I didn't want that. What I wanted was the rioting to stop. I wanted the media to put a focus on how terrible the riots were. I wanted the Democrats to speak up about how terrible they were. I didn't want Kamala Harris to promote a bail fund. I didn't want Democrats to keep saying, well, it needs to keep happening up to and through the election. I wanted local governors and mayors to actually deploy their domestic police force to handle it. But given that all of that wasn't occurring before Rittenhouse occurred, I said, you know what's going to happen? They're setting up the situation where it'll be like roof Koreans, where we're going to have Americans shooting other Americans. And I want that to stop at all causes. And so if that means temporarily deploying the National Guard as limited as possible to stop these riots, that's what should occur.
And that's what should happen on January 6th, right? So in January 6th, he should have not listened to, just like he should have not listened to the
Absolutely agree. I think that it would have been better for Donald Trump to not listen before January 6th when people like Miley told him not to deploy 10,000 National Guard. He should have went against his wishes, which you and all the Democrats would have said was authoritarian and was, quote, a Reichstag moment, which is what Miley said. And I think even the day of January 6th, he should have gone against what his people that he put on the ground, such as the Sergeant of Arms.
Just to be clear, if he would have deployed them, yes, it would have been authoritarian. The reason that he gave was authoritarian. He said that he wanted the National Guard people there to protect his people. Just to be clear.
That's fine.
He didn't say no, because the National Guard isn't supposed to be deployed to the Capitol to protect rioters at the Capitol. It's supposed to be deployed to protect the Capitol. When Donald Trump said that he wanted 10,000 troops there, he said he wanted them to protect his people. So that would have been
the reason that he was
yes.
the reason that he was saying that was because people like you on the left exhibited over and over again that when Trump and MAGA people got together for political purposes, oftentimes they were attacked by outside agitators. This occurred over and over and over. See Portland with the Patriot Prayer people that were constantly attacked. So Trump was worried that his people were going to come peacefully make their voices heard, and a bunch of left-wingers were going to come beat the shit out of them, and that happened over and over again. So he said, I want the National Guard there. The idea that had the Guard been there, they'd have been like, oh, we'll allow
You're
the
all
MAGA people
pivot red herring, all pivots, all red herrings. Originally you said that you implied that he wanted the National Guard there to protect the Capitol for some noble purpose. He didn't want them there to protect the Capitol.
Where did I say the words noble purpose?
Because you said that, well, you guys would have said that if he came there, it would have been for authoritarian reasons. I imagine the flip side would be, and that is if he's planning on having a protest there to protest the certification of the vote because he thinks the election is stolen, and he wants the National Guard there to protect his protesters who think the election was stolen, that's not a good deployment of the National Guard. That's exactly the type of situation that they were trying to prevent.
The Guard should have been deployed anyways. It was only because the downplaying and the false, I would say, intentionality of organizations like the FBI and other intelligence agencies that knew that there was likely to be some conflict there.
The FBI intended January 6th. That is your position, fair?
I believe that they, much like the Whitmer kidnapping case, that they were talking to people that they knew were inspiring people to possibly engage in acts of violence. They had people on the ground. They knew that it was going to occur to some degree. They facilitated that occurring so that they could use an excuse to crack down on people later, just like with the Whitmer situation.
And what's the one single example of evidence for this? One piece of evidence for this?
Well, for example, we can go to the testimony of Capitol Chief Sund, who talks repeatedly about how he requested the National Guard beforehand. He wasn't given proper intelligence.
Nope. You said that the federal police, the federal agencies were instigating that they wanted this to happen. I said, what's one single piece? Because there are hundreds of thousands of protesters the other day. One single piece of evidence. Did it come out in any of the Proud Boys or the Oath Breakers testimony? Any of their convictions? Any of their court stuff? Was there any piece of evidence whatsoever for any of these people that supports the idea that the feds were operating here to instigate this event?
Yes. Ready? You ready?
Yeah, just one thing.
In those trials, did the FBI testify that they had regular contact with those groups such as Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, and elsewise, and knew that they were going to attempt to have an overthrow of the government? Yes or no?
No, I don't think they did.
I'm not aware of that.
Okay, so then what did they testify as such?
For what?
They testified. Wait. In which trials are you talking about? Proud Boys?
So I believe Oath Keepers specifically, right? Though it might have been with Tario and them and the Proud Boys. There is testimony to the fact that they had people that were aware, and there's statements that they've given, that they heard their insiders that were given, that they planned on possibly bringing guns, and they planned on possibly overthrowing the government.
What you just said. So the fact that they would possibly have rumors or they have information they would possibly bring guns, that's possible. The FBI, by the way, passed along a threat assessment to a general email. I forget which one it is. They were passing along threat assessments. And so I don't understand how they did was,
we know that Miley was doing his own intelligence and had intelligence that later came out that said that he thought that it was going to get The FBI had many threat assessments and many specific assessments. They only set a general one, and that was sent to basically
the doesn't operate.
Let me finish.
The DoD relies on internal, on the FBI and other internal police forces to get their information. General Milley, I think is who you're referring to. He doesn't have he doesn't have his own intelligence agents. He has to rely on things like the FBI.
He was doing, if I'm not mistaken, there were sort of intelligence that he was doing that he was aware of that he was sharing with Democratic senators before January 6th, talking about things that he was hearing from this intelligence gathering that suggested there could be violence that day.
Hold on, wait, stop. I just want to be very clear where we're at right now. I asked for evidence that the feds were instigating this, and this has changed to somebody on a Senate committee heard suggestions that there might be some kind of violence on that day. So let me go back to the original question. Is there any evidence whatsoever that feds instigated any of this? Any evidence of that whatsoever?
Now, I know you're used to this, Destiny. Someone who's better than you, like Pisco.
He's not going to answer. Okay. He's not going to answer. So the answer to this is no.
Interrupting and jumping in. What I'm saying is,
I have to go.
Listen, I'll answer in 30 seconds. If they were aware that this stuff was likely to happen and testified to it later, and they did not share that information through the proper sources, only did the bare minimum to the point where the person tasked with defense, Capitol Chief Sund, said he was shocked at how he got less preparation and less intelligence sharing for this than even normal protests that would occur at the Capitol, then yes, it would show the only explanation is they're incredibly derelict because they knew there was about to be a coup to overthrow the government, but didn't share the information sufficiently with the people tasked with
gotcha.
Or they
sure. And then what is your strongest piece of evidence that they had a really good idea that this was going to happen?
You could go to the trials of the Oath Keepers, the Proud Boys, and the communications
I've seen all the indictments and everything. I've seen like articles about the convictions. But what?
Yes.
So are you saying that in these trials, what do they testify to?
They had quotes specifically that they said that they had. They specifically said that they had human intelligence assets where people, I forget the specific term they used, but basically people that were cooperating with the FBI that was routinely contacting the FBI that was giving them these quotes that were then used as quotes in the trials of these people to suggest that there was pre-planning of basically an coup or pre-planning of an attack on the Capitol. So if they had these quotes,
no. So to be clear, I don't think any of this is true. I think you're literally inventing all of this.
Well,
okay,
I disagree.
Destiny, we'll have to leave it there. I really appreciate everyone. Listen, I know there were some bumps along the road. We're trying to keep it a little bit more calibrated next time. I appreciate Rob, by the way. Speaking, I like it when Destiny and Rob get into it. But yeah, appreciate everyone.
For years, right, Pisco? That's why you defended me on the Rage Quit thing. Because I said we've been friends for years secretly, yes, right?
We went to high school together, and we actually were in-laws. In fact, according to Destiny. No, I'm just kidding. Listen. Thank you so much, Destiny. I appreciate you hosting this. And again, we'll try to do more space in the future. We hope you like the content. If you want to see any changes, have any suggestions, please send me DMs. If you're a MAGA content creator or a conservative, send me DMs if you want to be included, because I have a lot of like people, and I was trying to pick conservatives that I know because they're my reply guys. But if I don't have an indication of like maybe what your political leanings are, we're trying to get people who think a little differently. Send me that, and please do give me suggestions on how better to run it in the future, because I want to improve. But again, thanks to everyone who participated, and hope to do it in the future.
Okay.
Much love, and see you guys later.
Love you. Bye.